Hello, class. Today, Daniel Burns and I will be discussing our presentation on an autonomous future. Are self-driving cars safer than humans? A really fun topic, and I cannot wait to get into it. So, just for a little bit of background, I think most people know what an autonomous or self-driving car, those terms are kind of used interchangeably, is. It's basically a vehicle that drives itself, right? It's the future. It's what our technology has led into. Uses a computerized platform. It takes input from sensors. There's LiDAR, there's radar, and it kind of puts it all into a learned algorithm so that the car can sense things around it. It can drive itself. So if it's driving on the road, it can sense a pedestrian walking across the road. It can sense other cars coming towards it on the highway. It can sense how fast it's going, how fast the speed limit is supposed to be. It can slow down, stop, accelerate, all the things that a human driver would be able to do, the computerized system can do. A couple examples on here included Waymo. I actually got to work for Waymo for a couple years, testing their computer software, and I got to ride in their self-driving car, which was awesome, by the way, a really cool experience. And um, on the other side, we have, of course, Tesla, the one that's really out there that people are using the most, and you might have seen them in the news. Now, these self-driving cars, they have different levels of autonomy, and they start from level 0 all the way to level 5. So level 0 is actually what you would be doing if you're driving a car. It's no automation. That is, again, what 99% of cars on the road have no automation at all. It's all manual control. You're the one driving. You're the one with the steering wheel holding the accelerator. You have to watch out for the pedestrians. You have to watch out for the other cars. We start moving up a little bit to driver assistance. You've seen that probably in most cars now, where it can help lane correct for you. It can help slow down if it thinks you're about to rear end somebody. Kind of does a little bit for you. You can monitor your speed. You have cruise control. Everybody uses cruise control for the most part. Get up to partial automation. And of course, 0 to 2, you see the human monitors the driving environment the whole time. Now you move to 3 to 5, and that's when we start getting the automated system taking over. So you have some environmental detection capabilities. 3, the vehicle can perform most driving tasks. 4, the vehicle performs all driving tasks under specific circumstances. And human override is an option for levels 3 and 4. Usually a human is in the car and they can take over at any time if they think someone is in danger or if the car is acting erratically. And 5 is full automation. That's where we're going. And Waymo actually has some cars that are fully automated already. They actually are driving around with no driver at all in the front seat. You can use an app basically and call it like an Uber, and you get in the self-driving car with absolutely no driver. Of course, they can disable the car or take over through technology, through the system, but there's no human driver in there. That is really cool, but some people are kind of nervous about that. So that's what this presentation is actually about. We're talking, are self-driving cars safer than human cars? Studies have shown that the majority of people, more than half, really think that it's scary to have self-driving cars on the road. And of course, technology, new technology, is a little bit scary when you don't know exactly what's going on. And 71% of people found in a study that they did not want to be in a self-driving car. They were scared to be in the self-driving car itself. So you're scared to be in the car, you're scared to be around the car, but the best way to get over the fear is education. So that's what this is all about. Now, to do this, we're going to be looking at a few major studies. We have the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration. They have some national statistics that we're going to be looking at from 2010 to 2020. And these are looking at all cars on the road, looking at fatalities, injuries, other national statistics. And of course, why are we looking at this? It's because we're going to be comparing them later to our autonomous vehicles. We'll get back to that in just a second. Now we're actually going to be looking a little bit more in depth here. We're going to be looking at accident data in the United States. This is from Kaggle. We have California has the most U.S. accidents, followed by Florida, Texas. And well, why is California the most? Well, it's the largest. It's got a lot of people, a lot of big cities. So we're actually going to be focusing on California. Why? Well, we're in California, so it's pretty relevant for us. And the California DMV actually provides a lot of really good reports, and we're going to be looking into that. Now, looking into California, breaking it down, what's the worst city for accidents in California? It's Los Angeles, unsurprisingly. The biggest city by far. Some of the craziest drivers. You've probably seen some people driving erratically around Los Angeles. Second, actually surprised me. I thought it would be San Diego. It's actually Sacramento, which is close to my hometown of Davis, so that's cool. And then we go down from there. And we actually put this into a really cool thing called a heat map, where we're looking at, basically we took the amount of accidents and we kind of mapped that out. And of course, again, you can see that really big section down there. Yeah, that's that's Los Angeles down there. And San Diego down there. That's the majority of it. And then we get to Northern California. The most populated city in Northern California is around the Sacramento area. A lot of the rest in Northern California is a little bit less populated. Some of the Central California is a little bit populated as well. So, of course, things with the most accidents can be cities. It's going to be on freeways, of course, and highways. Places where you're going a high rate of speed and there's a lot of people around. And why is this important? Because autonomous vehicles can really reduce the accidents and injuries in those populated areas. We're not concerned about small towns where, you're not going to be getting in many accidents because you're not really interacting with that many other cars. But when you're in the hustle and bustle, you're in rush hour, or you're speeding to work in a busy city, that's when you're going to be getting the accidents. That's when autonomous vehicles could help. We'll see. So as we're getting into autonomous vehicles, we're going to look at what are the main companies, and we already went over some of them. Waymo here is at the top, you can see, with over 2 million miles over their cars, which is an insane number. So when I was working at Waymo, that was our #1 selling point. We drive the most. Which is cool. And California DMV is actually 4 million miles from autonomous vehicles. That's a lot of data, though. And of course, Waymo accounts for 50%. So now we're going to actually send it to Daniel for some more information on the autonomous vehicles and why Tesla isn't there. Because that, doesn't quite ring a bell. I said Waymo and Tesla are the big ones. So I'll let Daniel take it away.
Thanks, Arvin. But what about Tesla, you may ask? Well, Tesla takes a different path. With their full FSD, full self-driving beta program, they don't actually report their annual results to the DMV, unlike other manufacturers. They instead lift the liability and hand it off to the customer because the customer opts into the FSD beta program. FSD is different from Autopilot, which is Tesla's driver assist system, but it is not a fully autonomous hands-free platform, unlike FSD, which is hoping to be fully autonomous platform to be completely hands-free. The driving data is instead sent back to Tesla for their analysis, machine learning, AI model to train it and become better every single mile. Now, looking at this, they reported a whopping 35 million miles since the introduction of FSD in October of 2020. They are, or they would be, the leader in AV production, autonomous vehicle production, if they listed their results. Now, this puts them at around 9 million miles if you add it to the previously reported autonomous vehicle mileage. That is just an insane amount of data, an insane amount of miles that they've accumulated. Moving to the next slide, let's take a look at the AV autonomous vehicle disengagements. This usually means the annual disengagement and crash data, we find an interesting development regarding which AV manufacturer's system seems to be the most stable. Now, that's the takeover of control, either by a human at the wheel or remotely, which does not mean the vehicle crashed. This just means that a human had to intervene or take over. With Apple, yes, that Apple at the top of the list with 663 disengagements, paired with their 13,272 miles. This puts them above Waymo for disengagements, while Waymo, the current leader, lower on this list with 292 disengagements over around 2.3 million miles. One could infer from this data that Waymo's platform is currently ahead of Apple's. And disengagement is not all unwelcome news. It only becomes an issue when it is paired with a resulting crash. So, looking at autonomous vehicle crashes, we see of the 2,675 total disengagements, only 25 of them resulted in an accident in 2020. Now, that also takes us a look at over only 259 accidents total since the DMV started keeping track in 2014. The top three being Zoox at 8, Cruise at 8, and Waymo at 7 for 2020. Now, GM Cruise is taking the overall spot with 128 total crashes. And this combines GM's Cruise with the self-driving car company Cruise because GM bought the company. Moving on here, let's look at autonomous vehicle crashes by injury. Since 2014, we only see about 21 reported injuries out of the 259 crashes. For GM Cruise, out of the 128 crashes, only 14 of them were injuries. Looking at Google Waymo with 6 injuries out of the 82 crashes, which Google now owns Waymo, and then Zoox following a third with 1 injury for their 23 crashes. As you can see by this bar chart here, you can see each amount of crashes over the term of 2014, and then you can, since 2014, and then you can see the total crashes since then, and the total injuries paired with them. Now, looking at autonomous vehicle crashes by injury for 2020, this is some surprising results. There were actually no injuries reported out of the 25 crashes in 2020. That is fantastic, which leads us to our point. As technology advances and training models become more robust, fewer crashes will occur, fewer disengagements will happen, and the likelihood of injury vastly decreases. Now, as for Tesla, they report their annual and quarterly safety separately. So Tesla states in the fourth quarter of 2021, they recorded 1 crash for every 4.31 million miles driven, in which drivers were using autopilot technology that's including auto steer and active safety features. For drivers who are not using autopilot technology, that's no auto steer, no active safety features whatsoever, Tesla recorded 1 crash for every 1.59 million miles driven. That is a drastic reduction right there. By comparison, NHTSA most recent data shows that in the United States there is an automobile crash every 484,000 miles. That is drastically less, or excuse me, drastically more per mile per crash. And looking over here at the charts by Lex Friedman, made about 2 years ago, the Kyoto one of 2020, we can see Tesla vehicles using autopilot hardware 2/3. It's about the same, minus a GPU enhancement using their own GPU technology now. There's 825,970 of those vehicles using autopilot hardware 2 and 3. This hardware is capable of full self-driving, which makes 825,000 vehicles capable of driving itself. That is practically amazing. Now, looking at their estimated autopilot miles, it projects over 5 billion miles. That is insane. And what's important about this is autopilot also helps improve the models that improve full self-driving. And all the miles that full self-driving reports back also improves it even more with all the sensors and cameras and computer vision. It helps the most and helps produce the goal towards a fully autonomous future. So, in conclusion, autonomous vehicles are safer than human piloted cars, that's human driven cars. 63% of the 795,868 accidents resulted in injuries for human drivers. That's not great. That's in California alone. So, looking at autonomous vehicles, only 5% of those 259 crashes involving autonomous vehicles had injuries since 2014. And then you look at 2020, which had 0%, zero injuries involving of the 25 crashes. So autonomous vehicles, will drastically reduce the number of accidents in densely populated areas. And if you remember, you're looking at the heat map, this is where speed factors the highest, freeways and highways. Also, autonomous vehicles reduce strain, anger, frustration, and stress in traffic, in stop and go traffic, perhaps even ending traffic altogether. I mean, that's the ultimate goal for autonomous vehicles. Autonomous vehicles only improve with every mile. As technology improves year over year, it allows for capabilities to increase with this technology and have vast increases in capability to hardware, to sensors, to being able to detect a child running out in front of a car or see a stoplight, three stoplights ahead. Just something crazy like that is not that far off than what you think. Now, looking at full self-driving is now public as of this month. You don't need a safety score anymore, and you don't have to opt into the beta program as an invite only. Now, anyone with their Tesla which has hardware 2 or 3, full self-driving capable, paid for, they can go into settings, flip a toggle, flip a little switch, just like your iPhone, and they have full self-driving capabilities right there. Because of this, it's crazy. Adoption will skyrocket. And of course, competition leads to innovation. Tesla's not the only company out there. There's Waymo. There's Apple, who's hoping to somehow get hardware into third-party cars or maybe even make their own car. There's thousands of companies, about 20 of them who are doing a great job right now, or who are ahead of the pack, um, who are all trying to compete and create hardware and software to give us this fully autonomous self-driving future. It's going to be exciting. All right. So, any questions from all of you?